Now let's move on to other conversations. The Lagos State government has announced plans to ban single-use plastics and sachet water starting January 2025. Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, made the announcement at a stakeholders workshop. The ban aims to promote sustainable management of plastic waste and create a healthier environment. This follows the January 2024 ban on styrofoam in government establishments and across the metropolis.
Stakeholders, including the Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria, have urged the government to implement the ban in phases. ATWAP chairman Mosako Ololade requested phased implementation to allow its 2,000 members with over 10,000 workers to comply. The Lagos State government's move is part of efforts to address public plastic waste and environmental pollution. Now, details of the implementation plan and alternatives to single-use plastics and sachet waters are expected to be announced in due course. Joining us now is the director of Fortrose Consulting, expert in environmental, social, and governance, strategies, and more, Suraj Oyewale. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
How are you?
Very well. Quickly, what are your initial thoughts or your immediate thoughts on the necessity to ban single-use plastics, just like the Lagos State government has done? And do you think it's a sustainable move?
Thanks so much for having me once again. And on the general notes, I believe that we cannot continue to if you look at the impact of this, of these single-use plastics, especially talk about the impact on the environment, on health, and all of those. At some point they have to go. But the question is whether we are ready for them, whether the alternatives, whether our system as it is at the moment, can actually absorb the other effects of implementing this at this time. So from an environmental and health perspective, which is very, very critical, I believe that it's not something that is sustainable. Okay, the impact on the environment is very obvious. If you go around Lagos is a coastal city. You go around Lagos, you see how dirty the coastal waters are, and the majority of what you find there are all these plastics that have been disposed carelessly by people. So so it's not in doubt that at some point we have to find a solution to this, and this is one of the solutions the government are finding. But the question is whether the approach is the best at the moment, or whether the system we are in is ready for it.
What would you say are possible replacements for these single-use plastics and styrofoam?
Okay, I was in Rwanda early, sometime last year, late last year, and Rwanda is one of the countries that have actually banned these things. And I never even paid attention to it, even though I was, a consultant in the space, and I had, done some work consulting on all of these environmental issues. And but seeing it in practice for the first time, I went to a shop. I was expecting to be given a bag as to pack the items I bought in that Kigali shop. Only for me to be asked to pay for some papers, paper package, which which is what the government of that country allows to use to pack, and it was quite awkward, to be honest with you. So yes, paper is is one of the alternatives in countries that are already doing this, especially for the packaging materials. Bagging materials, and paper bagging is is something that has been used. Then for those that have to do with liquid, they use maybe more durable plastic, reusable plastic, and rather than all these single-use plastics, which ultimately affect the environment when they are disposed. But the question is whether those ones are also sustainable, because if you're talking about the paper bag, they also get disposed at some point, even though they are easier. They decompose much easily than these, plastics. So they pose less, environmental danger. And they can also be burnt much easily if they need to be burnt. Even the burning has its own environmental adverse effects. So these are the alternatives in countries that have adopted this. But the question is whether they whether they also how sustainable they also are. I mean, but we've seen these alternatives in use in other countries, and they come with their own small inconvenience. But it's from an environmental standpoint, they are a little more less dangerous to the environment compared to the prevalent single-use plastics we have at the moment.
And I completely agree with you. I see the danger that it is to the environment, how long it takes plastics to actually break down. And even with the research that is being done in terms of how they get into the soil, how we consume them. But the question now is, how much information have we put out? How much information, or how, now between now and January, such a short time, how much information is out there intentionally, deliberately, not just letting people know that this is being banned, but letting them understand why it is being banned and the danger it is to the environment and to us as well.
Yeah, I mean, the latest announcement by government was after a stakeholder meeting, which aired, and I think on Thursday. So you could see that's one of the environment, one of the measures taken by government to enlighten the people. Coming up, starting with the stakeholders. And this is the first week of October. We have October, November, and December, 3 weeks before January. And you can see that, that looks like, sufficient time to communicate to people, to communicate to people, not just the producer, because you have a lot of other, stakeholders in this. You have the producers, you have the middlemen, that's the retailers and wholesalers, and you have the end users themselves. People use it. So, I also believe that maybe we could do better in the timing. Maybe something like June could have been a better. Between now and June next year, that's 8-9 months. Maybe that could have been a better, opportunity to spread the message, to enlighten people about the alternatives, to let people know that they can even go to they can go to buy water with their own cup, with their own maybe plastic. With their own more durable plastic, their own water bottle. They can go with their own more durable container to to get things in the shops. Rather than being given all these less durable single-use plastics. So I believe that. I can advise the government of Lagos State to maybe think of postponing this. But the way things work in Nigeria is that most things people don't get serious about things until it's just few days or weeks to the timeline. So it's not exactly out of place for government to announce at the start that January is a time for us to implement this. But at some point they may just have to consider maybe moving it forward a little and see.
The ATWAP chairman, of course, Association of Table Water Producers of Nigeria, ATWAP, has asked for a phased implementation of this ruling, or this ban rather, which I think a lot of people would agree with. But like you've mentioned, a lot of Nigerians do not act until there's a deadline fast approaching. So there's that part.
Yes.
But you also mentioned water, and I think that's also key because as they popularly call them here, pure water sachets. They are the most affordable for the basic and common Nigerian. Not very many Nigerians are able to afford the water packs in bottles. And so, how do you think that is going to affect the purchase of water across the state?
Okay, I think it would have been much easier if you had a functional and reliable public water system. We go abroad, we go to the UK and some other countries in Europe, and we see that, they have public water system where even in the airport, if you cannot afford to buy water in the airport, you can see where you can put the tap, get water from your own cup, drink the water and all of these things. So if our government had, if you had a reliable public water system in Nigeria, where people could also easily use it's easy to go around with, our own containers, our own more durable containers. Most of us in Lagos, they say we are mothers, we carry bag around, and having our own cup in the bag, getting the nearest, water, point, whether buying, whether free, opening the tap, getting the water if it's consumable, and drinking the water. I mean, that might these are things that has worked in other countries where these things are less pronounced. But the challenge with us in Nigeria is the fact that such system is totally has collapsed. So we don't have that, and we need to rely on all the short, single-use materials as ways of packaging for this water. So the government, I mean, but this is a long term. I will not lie, but if the government could also fix the public water system, it could even be some arrangements where it could be some private sector people can even take it up, like making water available at different points. You get your cup to use it. I mean, if that is done in the highest earth standard, okay, I mean, that is something that could also reduce the demand, the dependence on single use, the alternatives to pure water when they're back. But I agree with the chairman of the ATWAP that says, who is suggesting that this needs to be faced. I mean, what that means is that maybe you could start from maybe the high-class environment or high-class event and say that, okay, in certain event centers, no use of certain type of plastic packages. It's easier for them to manage it, to package it. There are some point they move to the next phase of these things. Maybe after some 6 months, they move to the next phase of user group, and little by little these things become an habit. And another thing about this is that apart from the system issue, there's also these things becoming an habit. For example, I like to mention Kigali a lot, Rwanda, because it's their president, even though is people say it's dictatorial. I mean, these things start as rules. Most of these things start as rules, and they end up being habit for people. Okay, people comply out of fear. You don't throw. I mean, Kigali is perhaps the cleanest city in Africa. Okay, and these things start from the fear of their president, of the government. If you throw something on the of their law, to throw something on the floor, okay? But at some point, it became an habit that even we are not, we are just visitors, we find it very, very, strange to just put something on the, on the floor, to just dispose something indiscriminately because that become part of the habit of the own people. So I believe that's one of the advantages of making this thing faced, okay? Starting with the law, and at some point the whole thing moving to habit for people. So these are my own thoughts on on the alternatives, as well as getting people to comply.
All right. I mean, it's a good move. It's an understandable move. Will not be understood by some, especially because where we are in Lagos, Nigeria, in terms of, like my colleague has mentioned, access to portable water. And the suggestions you've made are suggestions that will be implemented over time. The current reality of what we have might not be able to match that, but I guess we'll just wait for the next few months to see what Lagos State has in store and how this will be phased out. Thank you very much, Suraj Oyewale, for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.